and the story of the flood and the ark that he built in order to save him and his family from the devastation of the flood. And immediately after the flood was over, Noach comes back onto dry land. There's a very interesting section in the parsha. We learn about Noach planting a vineyard. He harvests those grapes, he presses those grapes and makes them wine, and he ultimately becomes very drunk over it. And it's not exactly a glorious picture that we learn about Noach after the flood. And what's really interesting is the language that the Torah uses to describe Noach. It says, "Vayachal Noach ish ha'adama." Noach became a man of the earth, which doesn't necessarily sound like the greatest compliment. And in fact, Rashi says that this expression of Vayachal is, Rashi says, "Asa atzmo chulin." He made himself very plain. He made himself unholy. Why? Says Rashi, "Shachaisa lolita." He should have planted something else. And we have to ask ourselves a question. This was a man that had been on the ark for 365 days. This was a man that was involved in a very stressful situation for an entire year. He not only had to go ahead and watch over his family in the flood, he had to go ahead and take care of all the animals and all the creatures that were in the ark for an entire year. And he comes back to dry land after an entire year, and he sees the world is completely destroyed. There's nothing left. No friends, no family, no stores, nothing is left the way how he knew it. And all the man wants is a glass of wine. He wants a glass of wine, we can understand that. And he finally has his glass of wine, and we come down hard on him. What's wrong with Noach wanting a glass of wine after a very difficult year with the whole story of the flood? I think we learned something, a very important lesson from here, and that is, it's important to have our priorities straight. Of course there's nothing wrong with a glass of wine, but the question is, should that be the priority when a person comes back from the flood, from the devastation of the Mabul, from coming down from the ark? Should that be the first thing that he goes ahead and is involved with? That one should not do. If Noach had a thought at the conclusion of the flood, it should have been, now it's perhaps time to get serious. What can we do to make sure that this never happens again? For Noach to go ahead and afterwards and say, okay, let's start having some glasses of wine, that perhaps wasn't the best first thing to do. So I think we learned a great lesson in terms of priorities. Yes, we have to have downtime. Yes, it's important to go ahead and relax sometimes, but where in the scheme of things does this fit? Folks, as we begin our year and we look forward, it's important to have our priorities straight. And many times we have unimportant things to do. We have relaxation to do, and that's also perhaps sometimes important. But let us always remember the lesson of Noach and always to have our priorities straight. Have a wonderful Shabbos.